In child psychology, let's see about observational learning by Albert Bandura. So Albert Bandura said, most human behavior is learned by observation through modeling. So most human behaviors is learned by observation. So through modeling. So social learning theory is the philosophy that people can learn from each other through observation, imitation and modeling. The concept was theorized by psychologist Albert Bandura and combined ideas behind behaviorist and cognitive learning approaches. So social learning theory endeavors to study socialization and how it affects human behavior. So social learning theory endeavors to study socialization and how it affects the human behavior. So the human behavior is learned by observation. Once we learned observation, we take it as a model. So the history of social learning theory, Bandura was a psychologist who studied human behavior. He is most widely known for his Bobo doll study. So in these experiments, Bandura had children watch adults model positive and negative behaviors towards a toy balloon resembling a clown. In some cases, the adults were aggressive and violently beat the doll. After observing this footage, the children were given hammers and asked to interact with the doll. So most children who witnessed the aggressive behavior toward the doll also acted violently towards it, while most children who witnessed positive, non-aggressive behavior respond less aggressively. So Bandura concluded that the children learn their social behaviors through observation. So he using a doll to explain this theory. So children learn their social behavior through the observation of the adult, how they interact with their doll. If they are very aggressive, most of the children also aggressive. So the study acted as the basis for Bandura's theory. So the social learning theory is still commonly used in social psychology today and relates with other behaviorist theories such as nature versus nurture, symbolic interaction, situated learning, reinforcement learning and social development. So he interact lot of theories. These theories, nature versus nurture, symbolic interaction, situated learning, reinforcement behavior. So what are the stages of social learning theory or observational learning theory? So the basis behind social learning theory is that people observe the behavior, attitudes and consequences of others and then use that information to frame their own actions. So the key concept behind this process include 4 basic learning requirements. So these 4 concrete stages of social learning within social learning theory include attention, retention and memory, initiation and motor behavior or reproduction process and motivation. So the first one is attention process and the second one is retention, third one is reproduction and fourth one is motivational process. So the first one is attention. For a lesson or experience to have an impact on an observer, the observer must be actively observing their surroundings. It helps if the observer identifies well with a model or feels positive feelings about them. In addition, it helps if the observer is invested in the process of observing or feels strong feelings about the experience that they are observing. So factors that might affect attention include complexity, distinctiveness and functional value. So attention is very important. We have to, the observer pay attention to the another person's behavior and its consequences so as to repeat the same if required. So this is called attention process. So attention is first step and it is the important step. The second step is retention and memory. So for any learned experience to make a lasting impact, the observer needs to be able to remember it later. So once the observer can recall the experience, it also helps if they go over the experience, either revisiting it cognitively in their mind or even acting it out physically. So for example, a toddler may learn from an adult not to throw things, and later they may be observed teaching one of their stuffed animals that it is not okay to throw. So the second important point is retention and the memory. One must store a mental representation of what has been witnessed or observed in their memory. It is the second process in observational learning process. Second is retention. And the third one is reproduction or initiation or motor capability. So in order to carry out the lesson learned, the observer needs to be able to actually react it. So recreate it. So learning the necessary skills is an important part of the process before a behavior can be modeled. When a person has effectively paid attention to modeled behavior and repeats or demonstrated, they have achieved the necessary skill. So reproduction is very important. So first we have to, the observer have to give attention to the behavior and recall it or the memory, and the third one is reproduction. So it is the ability to reproduce the response by converting the stored mental images into overt behavior. It is the third step in observational learning process, reproduction process. And the fourth one is motivational process, that is motivation. Even if an observer has focused on a lesson, remembered all the details and learned the necessary skills to do it, so they still need to have the motivation to make it happen. So the source of motivation include anything from external rewards and bribes, observation that similar behavior is rewarded, desire to be like the model who demonstrate the behavior, or internal motivation to improve or learn. So motivational process, one is unlikely to reproduce an observed response unless motivated to do so. So we have to give motivation. We have to give any rewards, external rewards and bribes, an observation that similar behavior is rewarded. So the first one is attention, second one is retention, and third one is reproduction, and fourth one is motivation. So other factors that impact motivation include personal characteristics, past experiences, promised incentives, positive reinforcement and punishment. These are the other factors that impact the motivation. The next one is influences on observational learning. So according to Bandura's research, there are a number of factors that increase the likelihood that behavior will be imitated. So we are more likely to imitate people we perceive as warm and nurturing, people who receive rewards for their behavior. So these are the imitate. Who are imitate? People we perceive as warm and nurturing or imitate, and people who receive rewards for their behavior, they also actively participate in the or actively learning the what they are seeing, learn the behavior. And people who are in an authoritative position in our lives, and people who are similar to us in age, sex and interest. So people we admire or who are of a higher social status, and when we have been rewarded for imitating the behavior in the past. So once we rewarded for imitating the behavior in the past, you are good in that area or good in that place, you are acted correctly. When we do the same reaction in the next situations also. So when we lack confidence in our own knowledge or abilities, it affects. And when the situation is confusing and ambiguous, it is very difficult. And the factors affecting observational learning theory. First one is acquisition versus performance. So Bandura distinguishes between acquisition of a learned response and the performance of that response. So he maintains that reinforcement affect which responses are actually performed, then which responses are actually acquired. So he maintains that reinforcement that affect the responses are actually performed and the responses are actually acquired. It is acquisition versus performance. So what we needed but what we get. This is acquisition versus performance. And the second one is characteristics of a role model. So if they are liked and respected, they are more likely to be imitated. So example, parents, siblings, peers, favorite cartoon character, film stars, models based on the age of the child. So the role model is very important. The characteristics of the role model is very important. If they are very liked and respected, they are more likely to be imitated. So it is the second point, that factors affecting observational learning theory. And the third one is the expected consequences of the behavior. So children observing other people getting rewarded for positive behavior are likely to behave positively. So children observing an older sibling defying and being punished are less likely to defy. If the children was observing other people getting rewarded, it is a positive behavior. So they are behave positively. If the children observing the older sibling defying or getting punished, it is a negative behavior. So they are likely to be less likely to be defied. So this is otherwise known as vicarious learning. So it is called vicarious learning. So the modeling, it is very important. A behavior management technique is based on this theory of observational learning theory by